Thank you for listening to the Redfield Arts Review. This is your announcer, Mary Ann Perry. Brought to you by...
This house is full of sounds.
My name is Roderick Usher.
The loudest is your heart. Who's there? Pounding with fear. The softest is the sound of horror. In this house, terror waits for you in every room.
No, not through that door.
Nevermore. Madness, mystery, imagination. You'll find them all in Edgar Allan Poe's Haunted House of Usher.
And now, your host, Jennifer Rouse.
Writer-director-editor Mike Flanagan made his first splash with horror film fans with his 2011 crowdsource-funded film Absentia. Absentia featured actors from Flanagan's student film days and genre favorite Doug Jones, the star of The Shape of Water and Pan's Labyrinth. His real breakout film in the horror genre was Oculus from 2014. Flanagan's next major film was Hush, released by Netflix in 2016. This led to writing and directing an adaptation of Stephen King's Gerald's Game for Netflix, and eventually to the adaptation of Shirley Jackson's novel The Haunting of Hill House for Netflix, released as a 10-episode film in 2018. The Haunting of Hill House has won raves and accolades from fans and critics. Stephen King said, "The Haunting of Hill House, revised and remodeled by Mike Flanagan. I don't usually care for this kind of revisionism, but this is great. Close to a work of genius. I think Shirley Jackson would approve, but who knows for sure." Listen to the trailer for The Haunting of Hill House.
Now I want you two to get good rest.
What if I have a bad dream?
Well, I'm sure we can handle any dream you have.
What if I dream that you sent us away into the dark and we get hurt? Really hurt? And what if I'm so sad and scared of the dark out there that I put poison in me for years and years until my blood turns into poison and my heart breaks right in half and I can't feel anything happy? Till I can't stand it anymore and I have to die. Until I'm on a silver table. Is my jaw wired shut? Would you wake us up from a dream like that?
We're not like any other family. We're different because of where we grew up. Hill House.
Your mother, she was not crazy. Neither was your sister, neither is your brother, neither are you. It's that house.
You don't have to worry now, sweetie. That really bad dream? Of course I'd wake you.
This conversation you're about to listen to between Mike Flanagan and Mark Redfield was conducted by phone while Flanagan was editing Before I Wake in 2015, and Flanagan was on pins and needles waiting on word that Stephen King would give his blessing for him to make Gerald's Game. Please excuse the poor sound quality. The recording was originally recorded to be transcribed into a print interview, but this is Redfield Arts Audio, and we felt that hearing Mike Flanagan in his own words about screenwriting was worth a listen. We hope you do too. Here's Mark Redfield and Mike Flanagan.
At what point was there any deviance in your path? In other words, was it always, I wanted to be a filmmaker and I'll write to do that? Or was writing even independently, writing fiction, was that a part of it? I'm talking to the screenwriter, but, was that something that was in place early?
It was. Actually, the first script I wrote, it was my freshman year of college, and I was 18. I didn't know anything about writing, but I really wanted to make movies, and I didn't really know how to get started doing that. No one's submitting scripts to college kids for their consideration. And so I wrote a college relationship drama called Perspective that was 350 pages long.
Wow.
Improv formatted. Oh, it was brutal. God, it was unbearable. But it was the first time I ever actually sat down and tried to write. And nothing ever came of it except that I just really enjoyed the process. And then with the other little, what I've come to call like the little Towson trilogy, the only way to get things going was to self-generate. Otherwise, it's like your only options in school are either to generate something to work on or to just kind of take what comes with the directing classes, which will, best case scenario, let you direct a short maybe your junior or senior year. And so for me, it was always kind of, it was the only way to get anything done. I had a lot to learn about writing, and I think it took me at least 4 scripts to crack, just basic structural rules. So they were all really great learning experiences. And then the hope after that was when I made the move out west in 2003. The hope was that I could sell scripts because nobody was going to hire me to direct at that point, and I was making a living, editing bad commercials and reality TV and stuff. So at that point, it was kind of like that was a hope for survival. Was maybe if I can't make a movie, I can maybe write one and sell it.
Right.
And yeah, but yeah, it was always. I was always hoping to be directing my own scripts, and fortunately or unfortunately, I never really had an option to work on anybody else's. So,
and it strikes me, you actually jumped a little bit ahead of me, so I want to back up just a little bit. It strikes me because I had said, I have seen every film you've made. I'm pretty sure everyone. I've never read one of your screenplays ever. Do you to this day now, and you've got other things that are taking up a great amount of time. Certainly when you're in post-production and you're editing your films, and we're going to come back to that in a second, and how that relates to writing. But do you have a writing regimen, or does your regimen warm up? I mean, do you have a regular writing schedule, or do you have to fix one into place when a project or an idea comes to you? How does it work with you?
I think I've always had kind of a hunger to write. So even if there was nothing that I was supposed to be writing, I'd be working on something, whether it was an outline or just trying to come up with log lines. For process, I mean, with the college movies, it was, I got to make the first one, Make Believe, and when it was finished, I looked at the movie and was really kind of addicted to the process of making movies by that point. Like it was like heroin immediately. And the second the film was over, I wanted to do another one. So it was like, oh, okay, let me sit down and write another one. And then I saw that one through and saw the finished product and thought, oh, this could be so much better. Let me do another one. So it kind of was a sickness actually in the beginning. And when I got out to LA, that was when I started writing with Jeff Howard. who had already sold several scripts at studio level out here with other writing partners. And so he had seen the movies and kind of come at me and said, I think your voice is really interesting, and if you ever have a commercially viable slot, like, you could really be a force to be reckoned with. And initially it was like, hey, screw you, man. But he was absolutely right. And it took me a couple of years to figure that out. And then once we started writing together, he really kind of showed me the benefits of commercial viability. And I was able to kind of learn from his experiences with the studios, what kind of sensibility was required to approach a script if you wanted to take it to market. But even with all of his experience, it still took us, 7 years, 8 years to sell something.
Let me ask you. Let me ask you two questions, because now this is a very, very different thing. You get into a groove, project to project. You're able to. You're enjoying writing, so the solitary quality of that. But now you're collaborating. You're working with somebody, and these either, and in your case, it's obvious after Oculus, and now you've got these other collaborations coming up, and you've worked on scripts for Somnia. I mean, obviously, it's working. How do you actually collaborate? Is there a badminton game where, or is it Coen Brothers, or is it you read about people who collaborate on a script together, and there was a team that wrote a series of pulp novels, and they wrote hopscotch chapters. How do you collaborate? After working, writing a bunch of screenplays by yourself.
It's changed over the years. For the first 5 years or so, we would get in a room together and just kind of stand around and brainstorm. And then we would sit together and work on the outline. And most of the time we would sit in the same room and take turns typing while the other one kind of paced.
Interesting.
And that way we had kind of both of our voices into the script at once. As time went on and we got busier, especially as we started getting rewriting jobs and writing assignments, we didn't have time to do it that way. And so it kind of became, at a certain point, it became a much more remote collaboration where we would divvy up the workload. We would usually be in the same room to come up with the outline, which for us was a pretty fat document. It was very specific. We'd usually do a 30 or 40-page outline for a feature draft. And the joke between us was, if we triple spaced it, we could just turn it in as a first draft. But it would have dialogue, and it would have a lot of really specific structural notes. And then we would kind of divvy it up, and one of us would take Act 1, one of us would take Act 2, and when we finished, we would trade and do a pass of each other's work. And by the end, we'd kind of marry everything into one document. For the last few years, as the movies have actually gone into production, and that's pulled me out of town for 4 to 5 months for production, and then when I'm in post, we've done an awful lot just on the phone and sending documents back and forth. So I don't think we could have really built that workflow if we hadn't have had those 5 years where we were in the same room and kind of got to know each other's voices and strengths and weaknesses. And we've done, all things said and done now, about 15 scripts together. Which will never see the light of day. And yeah.
How is it, the expression "kill your darlings"? How is it if one of you feels very strongly that something brutal must be done, a choice must be made? Is there someone who defers to the other easily, or how do you, if you ever even come to this? Because it sounds like you've had, a really winning collaboration, and Oculus is seamless.
See the mirror hanging there. Face of silver, frame of black. Oculus of glass. I stare. I can feel you staring back. hear your voice. Believe your lies. A window, portal, darkened door. Should you claim my staring eyes, my soul you'll hold forevermore.
You know, wouldn't know where one of you began or one of you really ended, and I do want to get to editing in a minute, but what happens if there is, no, I really want this, and the other says, no, I really don't? I mean, how do you deal with that?
Well, typically, if we've had a really solid disagreement about something, what we learned early on was that means there's a problem with the script. It's typically not which one of us is right or which one of us is wrong. If we really vehemently disagree about something, you know, we kind of agree that means we're both wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And that there's a solution somewhere in the middle that's actually going to be better for the story. And that took a while to get to because there is absolutely ego involved with writing. And it's really tough to let go of something you're really attached to. But we've been pretty good about it. You know, there tends to be, kind of more in the second half of our working relationship, if it's a project that I'm going to be directing, there tends to be kind of more of a deference to what I want for that. But Jeff will still, you know, really dig his heels in if he thinks that something is a mistake.
Sure.
And with Oculus, you know, that was actually one of the scripts. We had years to work on that outline. Nobody was going to buy it.
Oh, that's an entire conversation, because I find that fascinating about what you must have generated material background thoughts, where the aha moments came over the years from the initial concept, which is universal and brilliant, you know, a haunted mirror, the horror, the metaphor of everything that a mirror can give you, what went into the first short, and then, of course, you know, what you must have had time to play with, because Oculus is so very well realized. It's so tightly realized. And I could go into kinds of things that start to sound critical, and I mean in a positive way, in picking it apart, not knowing what was behind the decision, you know, because things can change when you're on the floor and you're limited to a budget. I like very much the kind of horror thing where not too much is ever explained, and you know, you're dealing with tropes that have come before in other horror films, and in just resonating with those, the audience is already ahead of you, which allows you to do other things, and I think Oculus does that really, really well. And before I forget, completely off the record, that has nothing to do with this, and it does, it's a much longer talk, the girl who played the kid version, my God.
Yeah, Emily Basso.
She was startling. And the second time I watched the picture, I really watched the actors, but particularly her, because she really struck me the first time I saw that. Let me jump around a little bit, and I do want to come back to Oculus and editing, but you're a voracious reader. With the kind of schedule that you have with your career now, just the demands of how many hours there are in the day, are you able to keep your reading, are you able to keep that up?
Not as much as I'd like. I do believe that reading is it's like going to the gym for a writer. It's necessary exercise, and you know, I don't have as much time as I used to read, but I will try to make time for it. Particularly for me, I travel a lot more, and that's actually been great because I tend to approach an airport with a pile of reading. And that's kind of the time where I don't ever buy the Wi-Fi, no one can get me on the phone, and you know, typically, especially if I'm traveling to set, which has been, for me, in Alabama for the last several years, going back to Alabama. But I do a lot of reading when I'm traveling, and then I fall asleep reading a lot. I'll finally kind of either finish my work for the evening or you know, finish playing with my son, and Like, now I will read, and I'll get a couple chapters in and then pass out with the book or the Kindle on my chest. And I kind of religiously keep up with Stephen King's stuff, which is not the easiest thing in the world to do because he's so prolific. And every couple of months, it feels like there's a new, 700, 800-page novel to digest.
Right.
But yeah, I think reading is so critical. And as things have really taken off on the directing side, I get submitted scripts a lot. And it's really nice to read other writers' scripts and see what they're doing structurally and see what else is out there in town. And that was something I tried to do very early in my career, was power through as many produced screenplays as I could find at Borders. And kind of like, okay, well, I love The Usual Suspects. What does it look like on the page,
Right, yeah.
And how does that translate? And it was really startling to me with a lot of wonderful movies, how little of what I loved about them felt present in their scripts, how kind of bare bones they were. And it's been really fascinating reading scripts from writer-directors versus just professional writers. There's a phenomenon I think is interesting where one of two things happens with a writer-director, where there's either way more detail about the style and visual components of the film because they know what they're kind of transcribing their directorial vision onto the page, which I think is really fascinating. Well, for the opposite group, there's almost none because they've got it in their head, and the script is just meant to be a basic blueprint for them.
And I'm not sure.
No, that's all I had. Yeah, it's just because I think it's fascinating different ways people do it.
What I think I know about you is, I mean, you're the acting in your films has always been strong. Oculus I found incredibly tight, and again, the acting just being really, really crisp and really natural, really believable, which you need, I think, in this style of horror film. This is not an arch, gothic. This isn't a Hammer horror film or a Sleepy Hollow or a Tim Burton, and although I'd like to see you do something, I'd like to see you move in some other territories. And I don't know whether these are comfort zones or not, but let me ask you two quick questions. You obviously enjoy the process, write with the door closed, rewrite with the door open. You're working with a partner, Jeff Howard, on a number of things right now. You're directing a number of these things right now. So that's a whole other ball game. Actors will bring something to it. You will have visual ideas to it. I caught immediately, I loved the small camera turn when the husband and wife laid in bed. Just nice visual touches. I mean, because one of the key things about horror films is what's outside the frame. And you're always worried about what's outside the frame. Then you are the editor, the film editor of your pieces, where in a lot of ways you're able, with whatever forces are working, for whatever nefarious ends, the producers, but you're able to then work on the final draft of your piece. Talk a little bit about that. Where is your brain when you're actually assembling footage and watching it come to life and cutting it tighter? And because I also find Oculus tight as a drum. So where's the writer brain when you're actually looking at this and you're showing them a scene, or you yourself are looking at a new cut of something and tell me about that a little bit. What's happening to you?
Well, kind of quite by accident. I think the most developed skill set that I was able to grow in Los Angeles was editing. It was my day job, and I hated it, but it kept me alive. And I learned more about filmmaking, learning how to edit, than kind of anywhere else. So I do believe in the, I don't know who said it originally, but people throw it around out here all the time, that, you make three movies: the one you write, the one you shoot, and the one you cut.
Right.
And more than anything, I think my editor brain actually kicks in strongest in the writing stage. And with Oculus in particular, a lot of the editorial choices we made were written into the script, which limited us in production, because it was like, well, we're not moment in post, we need to get it right now, because we were doing a lot of the timeline editing, sometimes within one shot. And what I've found in post that's been really useful for me is to throw away, if I can, to throw away any preconceptions that I had writing, and even ones I had on the set, and kind of try to approach the material as though I'm seeing it for the first time. The edit, I think is where the movie is made and really stands up. So I try to protect myself as an editor in the writing, and be very specific about what a scene should be, and then I really try to protect myself on set, sometimes by making sure I have enough options so that editor Mike will be able to deal with it, or sometimes to make sure I don't have options so that no one can come in after the fact and alter something that I really believe in.
Good.
And that gets tough for producers, because they'll look, while we're shooting and be like, why do we only have 3 setups and 2 takes of this scene? And it's like, well, because there's only really one way I think it can be accomplished, and I'm not going to provide additional options in editorial because someone will use them at some point.
Right.
And so that's always kind of a tough tightrope to walk. But when the footage for Oculus came into my assistant editor to digitize and organize in the end, he sent a panicked email out to our producers where he said he thought he was missing footage, that there wasn't enough footage there to make the scenes executable and to make the movie work. And after I got into the cutting room and was able to work on it for a couple of days, he came back and he was like, oh no, actually, the way these bins are laid out, it's like IKEA furniture. There's kind of everything you need to build it, but nothing extra.
Right.
And if you don't follow the instructions, if you don't follow kind of the template for the way the scene was shot, the scene can't be edited. And that's been a method of self-protection for me, because that way I'm at least confident when we get into post, if a studio or a producer wants to make serious changes to the movie, they often can't. And, that's also something that could really blow up in your face, but fortunately so far hasn't.
And I think in Oculus more so, because of the nature of what you're asking, the story that you're telling the audience, and you're asking them to slide between 2 time frames as the characters are doing it or not, and it's tight as a drum, and it's very, very clear, so it's obvious that someone looking at something and looking at the footage coming in, thinking half a scene is missing if they're not really clued into how that puzzle gets put together, and then it's not a puzzle. It's and more so than any other film where you've played with anything like that, and some of the other ones were pretty much straight narratives as well. I want to go, if you can you go another 10 minutes?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, because I don't.
No one's chasing me yet.
Can we? This is just a goofy question that I'll just stick in somewhere. Do you have any compulsion at any point that you might write some fiction, that you might write something outside of a screenplay?
Oh, absolutely. I would love to write
a novel, maybe?
I would love to write a novel. Yeah, I would love to. And there's one project I've been working on for a couple of years that started as a script, and then I abandoned the script at the end of Act 2 because I felt like there wasn't nearly enough real estate to tell the story. And I started working on a novelization for it, and that's been kind of a project I come back to and dust off in between other projects. But I would love to do that. And I've also been really curious about writing a video game. I think what people are doing with video games these days is incredible, and a chance to tell an immersive story. My brother sat me down and showed me. He just made me watch him play The Last of Us.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, watching him play that is the best, most emotionally absorbing zombie movie I'd ever seen. And And like, I was riveted just sitting there watching him play it, and the fact that he got to experience it in a first-person way, I was like, this is really becoming a powerful art form, with respect to Roger Ebert, who said video games could never be art. It's like, I disagree.
Right.
And I think that could be a really exciting way to tell a story, and to tell a really involved story that pulls a viewer in a way that you don't get from basic narrative television and film. So I would love to do that. It's a question of having an opportunity to do it, and kind of what I've been trying to build over the last few years is enough stability within the feature world that I could branch out, whether it's books or video games. Television would be really fun to play with, and it's very difficult to get a foothold in the industry, in the studio system, and once you do, it's almost even more difficult to then break out of the mold you've created for yourself.
Now, in a way, you're leading right to where I was hoping we would go. Can we talk about Gerald's game?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I don't know, when I first saw the notice come down the pike, and what did that come out of the festival? That announcement. But I thought, because it's Stephen King and because it's not a Stephen King supernatural horror, outright horror novel, this is the kind of thing that might allow you to branch or open roads, even though it's still a thriller, even though you're going to be using a lot of the same tools from the toolbox. It was just by nature of the property, maybe possibly open some doors up, and it was like, I hope this really happens. So cheerleading on that end.
That's a marriage, isn't it? Working on the difficult things.
For better or worse.
Let's go in, get comfy. I bet you think your husband will be back any minute. Try to go for help. There's no one for miles.
Gerald?
I'm sorry, baby. You don't get to know my name.
I don't like this. I'm serious. Stop.
Like that.
Stop it!
Are you playing?
Is this really what it takes these days?
God, how did we go so wrong? We were happy once, weren't we?
Gerald? What? What's happening?
Oh.
Gerald!
Wake up. Just wake up. It's time to wake up, honey.
5 hours you've wasted screaming for neighbors that are half a mile away, if they're even here yet. How long do you think someone lives without water? That will not work. You can pull till your wrists break. You're not getting out of those cuffs.
You're not real. You're not real. Little baby, don't say a word.
Focus. You've been sleepwalking since you were 12 years old.
That's a beautiful dress.
He put you in those handcuffs way before Gerald did.
You all right? Mom?
You need everything you need to survive from the beginning. You just have to remember.
Back off! If you don't wake up, you're gonna die.
Well, I know you're a big Stephen King fan. We've always talked about that. And you know this novel inside and out. You've wanted to adapt it. I think I know that about you. So I'm not curious right now how that happens, how somebody comes to the keys with Gerald's game. That's for the future. But let's talk about adaptation. Tell me about Gerald's game and where you are with that creatively. I mean, where was the process, from fantasizing? Because what Stephen King was for me was the Apt Pupil years ago. When I first read Apt Pupil, I thought, I want to make this into a movie. I saw it so clearly. So what's the whole process of Gerald's Game with you?
Well, I read it in college and immediately wanted to do a movie. I thought it was such an incredibly different and suspenseful book, and I read all of this stuff, and that one just blew me away. My thoughts reading it were also that it was fundamentally unfilmable. That the novel as it was like, how do you turn this into a cinematic experience? And for several years, when I first when I got my first manager and agents out here, and they always ask you, what you want to do, I would always bring up Gerald's Game, and we would try to pursue the rights. And we would be declined every time. And the reason I found out, recently, the reason was that Steven wanted to hold on to that project for him to direct. And so for 20 years, he would never let anybody have an option on it.
Wow.
And we kept pursuing it. Always got the same answer. And then King saw Oculus and was a big fan of it, and was even, had gotten in touch with the studio and said he'd help promote the movie and give us quotes, for the marketing. And so I was like, try again with Gerald's Game right now. Try it immediately.
Yes.
And so they sent a proposal to him, and they said, Mike really wants to do Gerald's Game. And he said, well, I've long given up the idea that I would direct it myself, and I also am very curious. He had given one option to, I think, Nicole Kidman a couple of years ago, and she had her team had turned in the draft, but he was just like, no, this deviates too far from the source material, which is something as a King fan I'm really sensitive about.
Sure.
So,
although for the record, I love Kubrick's The Shining. I'm just saying, Mike. I hope we're still friends. Anyway.
I know. No, and it's funny because I get myself in so much trouble talking about The Shining. I love and admire the hell out of the Kubrick film. I just hate it as an adaptation of The Shining.
And that's fine.
Yeah. The Stephen King fan in me is like, well, it's a great movie, but it's not Shining.
So anyway, now is the time. Go. Gerald's Game. Stephen, let's lock this down. So what happens then?
So we got approved. We basically got I think it was a 9-month option on the property to write a script. And one of the things that King does is he's hit a level in his career where he can control every aspect of that negotiation. There's really no negotiating with him. And he'll say, okay, I'll let you write the script. You can't tell anybody about it. You can't do anything with it. And then you send it to me. And if I like it, then I'll say good, and you have a certain window to go into production or announce a start date. And if he doesn't like it, you literally destroy the copies of your draft and never talk about it.
Wow.
It's pretty mercenary, but one of the benefits of being Stephen King.
And protecting your work. I'm reminded, by the way, and is it okay to keep this in the interview? Because this is a lot of this is. I didn't know that about Stephen King, and I'm reminded of, and I love this story, and I have to double check this. I have to do some research before I attribute it to Richard Matheson, who King is quoted as saying is his largest influence in writing. But
I Am Legend. Yeah,
there is.
I Am Legend did it for King.
Yeah, and it's I Am Legend that I think this is it, and I think it's one of those things where you like. Which painter said this quote? But I think it's Richard Matheson. I think it's I Am Legend. Somebody said, about the Will Smith movie to him. My God, I feel so bad for you. I'm sorry. I mean, see what they did to your novel. And he turned and he pulled his novel off the shelf and he said, they didn't do anything to my novel. My novel's right here. But to have the kind of, that's great for a writer to have that kind of control over their work. So anyway, so...
He's, I think, appropriately protective of his stuff, and has had such a career that it affords him that level of control.
Yeah.
And so it was nerve wracking because once we had the deal, I went off to write, and adapting your idol is really tricky. because there are obvious changes that needed to be made to the story to make it visually cinematic.
Right.
And there was a sensitivity with me where it was like, I think this is the best way to do it, you know, and I would sit there and be like, what would Frank Darabont do if he had this material? Like, who I think has been so effective at adapting his work.
Yes.
You know, like what would he do with it? And so I went through the novel. I still have the copy of the book that I used for the adaptation, which is just overflowing. I would take Post-it notes, and because I didn't want to deface the book by writing in the margins.
Oh, wow.
And I would stick Post-it notes, you know, sometimes 10 deep on a given page with, you know, with notes like, okay, this piece of dialogue needs to remain in the movie untouched. You know, here's an idea for how to fix this issue. And the book ended up just ballooning. It's a hardcover edition of Gerald's Game that's just overflowing with Post-it notes, and it looks like the work of a madman.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then after that, I started back at the very beginning of the book and sat writing the outline with reference to specific numbered Post-its, and then just sat and tried to do the draft. We finished the draft very quickly and submitted it to King, and you know, whatever it was, 6 or 7 days waiting for his reaction to the draft was one of the more suspenseful moments of my professional career. And he came back and loved it. He had no notes, and came back. This is great. You know, this is exactly the way I think the movie should be handled. I can't wait to see it, and go with God. And so that at that point we announced the project and started to go about looking for financing and casting,
right.
Which is where we're still working all that out, because that always takes the longest. And I've been finishing Somnia most of the year. Somnia, we'll picture lock this Friday, and then I've got a month of, you know, score and mix, and then we'll see where it's at. But the timing's been great because it's allowed us to really take our time with making sure we find the right cast and right financial partners for Gerald's Game, because it was such a challenging piece of material. It's very dark and not something that, you know, that a lot of people are going to look at and immediately say, oh, this is a clear commercial hit that I can compare to, you know, this movie, that movie, and this movie that came out in the last 5 years and did well. It's a very bizarre animal.
Yes.
So great partners we always knew it was going to be tough, but we also knew we had, you know, the kind of the 900-pound gorilla in the room of Stephen King.
Right.
People take way more seriously than they take Mike Flanagan. So it's, you know, it's been really a very different experience trying to get the movie off the ground with his support behind it. And so my hope at the moment is that we'll be able to announce cast sometime in the next few weeks, and then I'd like to be in production on that project February, maybe, after the holidays. But yeah, it was certainly a unique writing experience, because it was so frightening to take a piece of writing that I respected so much, and the tiniest alterations to it, even structurally, to make it kind of even fit within the framework of a feature film. Every little move made me nervous. I imagine it's the way surgeons might feel before they cut something. You know, that it's like one wrong move with your hand and you can kill the patient.
Right.
And so it was very delicate and terrifying to do. But at the end of the day, I think the changes that we made lend themselves to a really visceral viewing experience, but the spirit of the novel and the feeling one would get reading the novel are all protected.
Yeah, because you're all big boys, and you know, I mean, King does really know this in the end too, that these are so completely different animals. They are just they're absorbed completely differently, and if you can retain the spirit and the lifeblood and the life spirit of a novel, and not go off into wild directions. And I think he deep down knows that as well. And I wonder if it was a help or a hindrance to have been so in love with a passion project. In other words, it's in your hair, it's in your clothes, like cigarette smoke. I don't mean to make it a negative connotation, but it's, Gerald's Game is something that you've seen, you've dreamt about. Oh boy, this would, and then to sit down and do it, some of that work is there. It's about getting it out in different ways. I guess if it was a cold project to you and you had to learn it, that would be a different thing. But maybe it helped that you loved it so much.
I like to think it does. I think where adaptations can fall apart, I think, is when people don't necessarily love the source material.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that the first people to buy tickets for an adaptation are people that do love the source material.
Exactly.
And you hope it'll find a new audience. You hope it'll be fresh for people who have never heard of it or never really gave the book a chance for whatever the reason. But the first people in the door that you're going to have to, the first person you have to please is the author, and then you've got to please the wave of people that love the material as much as you do.
I agree.
And, yeah. If you can pull that off, then you end up with Shawshank. And if you can't pull that off, you end up with Dreamcatcher. And the gulf of effectiveness, kind of between those two films, I think is so shocking, considering that, the talent involved with Shawshank and the talent involved with Dreamcatcher are basically equivalent. You got William Goldman writing, Lawrence Kasdan directing Dreamcatcher, and then an incredible A-list cast of really marvelous actors. And it's like, what went wrong? Because nobody set out to make a bad adaptation of Dreamcatcher, but the movie, the cast, crew, and everybody will admit the movie doesn't work.
Right.
So it's like, what happened? And there's no really easy answer to that. Because you'd think there's a world where people who adored Rita Hayworth in The Shawshank Redemption might come in, look at Morgan Freeman playing the character of Red, who's supposed to be this, jolly, heavy Irishman.
Right.
And disconnect from the material, and be offended for the audacity to make such a major change in a lead characterization. But that worked, that worked. I believe that the film, The Shawshank Redemption, is a stronger piece of entertainment than the short story.
I feel that way about the. I feel a parallel way about the film Glengarry Glen Ross, that the film is better than the play. Two quick things that pop into my mind talking about screenplays. And you mentioned Morgan Freeman. The first Lethal Weapon. It's written as two white guys, and I actually happened to be in New York when Shawshank Redemption was being cast. And I went over to, I don't know how I did this, was an assistant or Deborah Keeler herself when she was out in New York. I came in and I auditioned twice, and it was so stupid because I was so young, but they had me keep coming in for one of the parole board people. And when I saw the final film, it was like I was nowhere in the ballpark of the rural, older faces that they cast. But the coolest thing that came out of this, and this is something that I'll never forget, Deborah said, "You're interested in screenwriting, and you're writing, Mark, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes, I am." When does this happen? She gave me the entire script. She said, "If you want to learn something about screenwriting, you've got to read this script." And I took the thing, and I worked backwards because I did not know this. I didn't know Rita Hayworth in The Shawshank Redemption. So I got the screenplay, and I read it in the apartment of the friend I was staying with, and it was, because I was reading screenplays, and I was, doing that. I was ordering screenplays. Used to be able to get printed screenplays from, there was a place in Hollywood that I wrote to, and for like $10, $15 they would send you whatever the screenplay was. And it was before the internet, where you could almost find anything at any time. And I just read this thing, and then I went back and read the story, and I said, I mean, it was a revelation. And I told Darabont this story about 4 years ago. I ran into him in San Diego, and this was just as, no. This was just as The Walking Dead was launching. I hadn't even seen that. And I didn't know what that was going to do for him or what was going to happen to him. But we were able to talk about the screenplay and just talk about, just shoot the shit. But it was part of my script learning, and it was just, the casting director would just hand you a screenplay. I guess this, pre big internet, there's no fear of things being leaking. It was just an amazing thing to get that script. I didn't get cast too, but that's a different story.
It is one of the best, the best adapted scripts I've ever read. It's incredible.
I mean, it is, and there's things that we've already touched on, like Apt Pupil, how disappointed I was, and again, you're looking at the talent and the people involved, and it just, but anyway. Oh, and by the way, Gerald's Game is another collaboration with Jeff Howard, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. I just wanted to clarify that, and I'm sure, it's on the internet, I can find it easily. So Somnia, it's the same team, same production team, same producers?
Yep, same producer, same studio, most of the same crew. I've pretty much decided I'll never work with another DP, ever.
Good for you.
Mike Flanagan.
Good.
But yeah, it's a lot of the same people, and some of the same cast. There's a little bit of overlap, and some of the Absentia people pop up in it. Mm-hmm. But my son is actually in it. Which is really kind of neat. But it couldn't be a more different animal than Oculus, kind of to the point that I'm nervous about the reception.
By the way,
straightforward.
Well, I didn't mean to interrupt you because I wanted to know more about it, but I don't want this interview to be about things that won't be evergreen, a year from now, because we can talk about other things. But what's the deal with, and I can't believe I just remember this because I guess I put it out my mind. What's the reality of I Know What You Did Last Summer? Speaking of a different animal, anyway.
Oh my God! No, that the trades. I guess somebody had totally leaked something about the project, and the trades ran with it in a way that was shocking and actually potentially detrimental to Gerald's Game when they announced, because they had me producing and directing it, which is not true. It's a writing assignment that we took when it became clear that I wouldn't be going into production this fall. And Sony had gotten in touch because they liked Oculus, and they said, we want to do I Know What You Did Last Summer reboot, and our initial reaction was to pass.
Yeah.
And they came back and said, before you pass, hear us out, because we'd like to do something very, very different with it. And I went into the meeting saying, well, we would only really be interested if you're talking about a movie that isn't about teenagers, isn't about, an elimination storyline of kids getting killed.
Right.
No fishermen with and the take we pitched them was kind of, the only thing that's going to be kind of connectable to the original is just the title. And we pitched a take I never thought a studio would embrace, and they did. I don't know what will happen. I don't know if they'll make our take of it. But we're signed on just to deliver that draft, and then it's kind of up to them if they want to get other writers on it or if they want to go into production. It'll be up to them. But it's we take a couple writing assignments a year just to keep the career moving and develop better studio relationships. We take them quite often, and they're never announced. They're never kind of a big deal. It's just something we do.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes a title, and this one got out. And is there? And here's maybe a final question that I'm sure is on your fans' minds. The other take on it is, that you pitch them the idea that it's like Red, it's Helen Mirren and Anthony Hopkins, and I can't remember what the fuck I did last summer, and just see where that goes. But anyway, do it with an older cat. There's Morgan Freeman; he's still working. So anyway, is there movement from your team and the producers? I mean, is there the possibility of some more Oculus movies, if not from you, but from, is it possible that this mirror messes with some other people in the future?
Absolutely. We've actually had several meetings about it. The studio would love to do it. And so the trick for us has been, okay, well, where does it fit into my availability? What level of involvement would I have with an Oculus sequel? And my instinct is to be protective of the franchise from a writing perspective, for sure. They just might want to move faster on production than I'll have availability for. In which case, I'd be really interested in a version of events where, Jeff and I would write a script that we believe in for a sequel and, find a really exciting younger director that we could help kind of, keep our eyes on the project, but see what someone else's vision, is able to kind of bring into that mythology. But we're definitely having the talks. We don't know yet kind of what the best strategy is for that, but the movie performed well enough for everybody that there has been a lot of interest in the sequel. One of the benefits of how long it took to get Oculus made at all was that we have piles of other stories a lot of them were abandoned concepts that we had initially looked at for the first film, and there's no shortage of material. It's just a question of timing and what makes sense for the money people and the distribution people and whether or not my involvement is going to be really intense and on the ground or kind of more detached this thing.
Right.
We'll know pretty soon because they want an answer pretty soon. So yeah.
Well, good. Listen, I'm going to let you go and get back to work if you have to, and I'm going to get to some other things. And let's as time unfolds, see if we can't get another couple of hours just to talk about our lives and people in our lives and that kind of thing. I miss you.
I miss you too, sir. It would be great. I love catching up, and thanks for reaching out and setting this up. This has been great.
Thank you for listening to the Redfield Arts Review. Please come back again for our next show. The Redfield Arts Review and the original content of this program is copyright the Mark Redfield Company. Shopping for Explosives by Coconut Monkey Rocket. Licensed under Attribution Non-Commercial International License. All other content used by permission of the respective rights holders or used for educational and informational purposes. Original music, sound design, and engineering is by Jennifer Rouse. This is your announcer, Mary Ann Perry. Available now from Redfield Arts Audio.
Hello, this is Caroline Monroe.
And I'm Martine Beswick.
And we're here to tell you about this wonderful and exciting new project that we've both been involved with. It's called Sinbad and the Pirate Princess.
And it's a movie for your ear.
Baghdad. The great city and its citizens are celebrating.
Now, as I am a river to my people.
You must kill her, my handsome and still skeptical Captain Sinbad. The only good pirate is a dead one.
Brace yourself, Captain Bulla! The pirates are upon us! Their ship comes alongside us!
I shall not rest until all of Badra's ships are burnt.
You remind me of only one other swordsman with such skill.
Who?
Me!
What is that in that vial?
This? Simply the blood of a siren mixed into a potion that I now drink.
Look! Look! She changes, Captain!
For you and the people of Zalos, I have complete faith in Sinbad. He's the very man you need.